We are now having our first speaker of the day, Dr. V.L Shyam, with us. He has remarkable academic qualifications, an MD, MPhil gold medalist from Mahatma Gandhi University. And I'll have to read out his very impressive list of achievements, which are to his credit. He's the medical director of Dr. Shyam's Ayurvedic Center in UAE, the managing director of Natura Wellbeing UAE, the CEO of Vaidyashala UAE, managing director Back to Roots here in India. He was the first Ayurvedic practitioner licensed by the Ministry of Health in 2002. With extensive experience in Ayurveda spanned across 20 countries. He has successfully implemented over 60 Ayurveda and wellness projects, a columnist on Ayurveda and Wellbeing for 15 years, with over 1,000 columns, He is a recipient of several awards, the Sheikh Zayed International Award for Traditional, Complementary and Alternative Medicine, the Ministry of Health Award 2019, Health Excellence Award 2018, 2017, Spa Person of the Year Hotelier Middle East Award 2007. He's also a member of the International Expert Consultation Meeting 2019, General Secretary, International Ayush Conference, Dubai 2017. I hope I haven't forgotten anything, but a warm welcome to you, Dr. Shyam. And we look forward to your sharing on Ayurveda for emotional wellness. Over to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Neeta, for giving me this opportunity. It's certainly an honor and pleasure, to talk about Ayurveda. And if there is any comments in between, or if there is any questions in between, please put it in the chat box. I will not be presenting with any PowerPoint slides. Rather, I wish to talk about the subject. So, see, first of all, Ayurveda, it has a well-developed branch of psychiatry named as Bhuta Vidya. But one might not find, a branch of psychology in Ayurveda. So you might sometimes, wonder about my eligibility to talk in a wellness summit or wellness seminar, being an Ayurvedic doctor. However, though Ayurveda do not have a branch of psychology, the whole Ayurveda is about psychology. The whole Ayurveda is about the self-care. Ayurveda is about the primary care. Ayurveda is about the secondary care. And Ayurveda is about the tertiary care of the mind-body axis. So I would say the whole Ayurveda, it's about the emotional and mental health. I'll tell you an example. Ayurveda might not be talking about or detailing about the meditation, for example. But Ayurveda details in depth about the sleep, the physiology of the sleep, and the different pathological conditions which can be related to the sleep. And I'm sure that you are very well aware that, meditation and sleep, that is, there is a lot of resemblance, in between. Sleep, it is an unconscious process of the detachment of sensory perceptions and the sensory organs from the mind. While meditation, it is a conscious process of detachment of sensory organs and the sensory perceptions from the mind. So we Ayurvedic people say, one who cannot sleep well cannot meditate also. Because sleeping with awareness is meditation. And meditation improves the quality of the sleep, and sleep improves the quality of meditation also. So Ayurveda is, very much detailed into mental health and emotional health. Let me start with, the definition of Ayurveda. As you all might be familiar, the term Ayurveda, it is formed by the combination of two words, Ayu, meaning life, that may not be the exact translation, and Veda means knowledge. So the literal meaning of the word Ayurveda is, it is the knowledge of life. Now let's understand, what is this Ayu, which is translated into the life. Ayu, according to Ayurveda, it is a combination of senses, body, mind, and the soul. So Ayu, according to Ayurveda, it is a combination of body, mind, sensory organs, and the soul. Textbook says, Sharira, Indriya, Sattva, Atma, Samyoga. Body, sensory organs, mind, and the soul. So Ayurveda is not just limited to the body or to the physical symptoms, but also gives a comprehensive knowledge about the emotional health, about the mental health, and about the spiritual health. The word Ayu in Sanskrit, it has a meaning like, Gadau. That means, which transforms and which moves. So Ayu is something, which is moving to its destruction. That is another meaning. A synonym of Ayu is Sharira. That means, which constantly undergoes destruction is Sharira. So Ayurveda, from the word itself, is giving us a warning that life is not eternal. So Ayurveda is the knowledge of this life which will get destroyed. That is the word meaning of Ayurveda. We all know that, we live in a world where mental diseases are the leading cause of global diseases and global ill health. About some of the statistics, it says almost about 40% of the private employees in India, they suffer from some kind of depression or anxiety disorders. And there is huge, economic loss also, which is happening due to mental sickness across the world. And the statistics says India accounts for 36% of the suicides, which is happening globally. And the irony is that India has a great wisdom on mental health, which is theorized by Ayurveda or yoga. And on the other side, 36% of the suicides happening globally is from India. However, 2/3 of the mental diseases do not access the medical health due to stigma, due to neglect, and due to lack of awareness. Because once a person goes to a psychiatrist, he or she, will get a stain or get a blemish. So the institutionalized mental disease care, it might not be the right way. The mental health, it has to be brought to the level of primary care or to the level of self-care. And several countries even do not have a mental policy, do not have, mental care health programs. And in several countries, the budget allocation for mental health might be, 1% or less than 1%. There is lack of experts. Many countries have, very limited experts and limited beds, because there is a focus on body health rather than the mental health. While the authentic textbooks of Ayurveda, for example, if I quote a verse from the well-celebrated Ayurvedic books named Ashtanga Hridaya, it starts with a slogan: Ragadi Rogan Sadatan Anushaktan Asheshagaya Prasrutan Asheshan Autsukya Moha Aradiran Jakana Yo Apurva Vaidyaya Namostu Tasmai. It's in Sanskrit. So the meaning is salutation to the unique and rare physician who has destroyed without any residue all the diseases like raga. Raga means attachment. So salutation to that rare physician who has destroyed without any residue all the diseases which are starting with raga. That is attachment, detachment, lust, anger, greed, false ego, competition, which are constantly associated with the body, which is spread all over the body, giving rise to diseases, delusion, and restlessness. That is the meaning of this, the first sloka of Ashtanga Hridaya. These emotions, the raga, etc., they are otherwise called the enemies of the true self or the enemies of the soul. And according to Ayurveda and the Indian philosophies, these are the fundamental tenets of the Kali Yuga. That is kama, or the desire for sensual pleasure, anger, greed, attachment, the false ego, or mada or ahamkara, we call it like, and partiality or competition. These are the 6 enemies of the true self. According to the scriptures, these emotions, they bind the soul to the cycle of birth and death and keep it confined to this material world, or confines to Maya. So according to Ayurveda, these emotions are constantly associated with the body. As per the sloka, these emotions are constantly associated with the body. And here, the body has a different meaning. And these emotions, they are spread all over the body, and they give rise to delusion and diseases. So according to Ayurveda, all the diseases are due to raga, or all the diseases are due to attachment. So this raga, dvesha, lobha, moha, mada, malsarya, the emotions, which I have mentioned. And the instability, it affects the prajna, or it affects the intellect. The emotional turbulence, they hijack the mind. That is what even, the Bhagavad Gita says. It says, Sangat samjayate kamaha. So the meaning is, when a person is constantly contemplating on the objects of the senses, a person will develop, attachment to them. And from the attachment, it brings the kama or the desire. And from the unfulfillment of the desires originates anger. Kamat krodho abhijayade. And krodhat bhavati sammoha. From the anger arises delusion. From the moha or from the delusion, smriti bhramshaha, smriti vibhramshaha. That is a confusion of the memory, from which it leads to the loss of prajna and then goes to the complete ruin. So that is the meaning of this verse in Bhagavad Gita. So if I quote, Bhagavad Gita again, the body is the chariot and the Atma is its owner. Buddhi is the driver. The mind is its reins. The Indriyas are the horses pulling the chariot. That is, the objects of the taste, the touch, etc. They are its path. So thus, the Atma uses the Indriyas, or the soul uses the sense organs as a means to enjoy the worldly pleasures. So here, you can see that the owner or the charioteer, he or she is separate from the chariot. He is separate from the driver. He is separate from the horses. He or she is separate from the reins, from the path, and from everything else. So he is called the master of the chariot. Similarly, this Atma is totally different from the body. Atma is totally different from the sense organs. Soul is different from the mind and the other things, because it is the master. It is the head of them. See, according to Ayurveda, the emotions and the mind, it cannot be separated from the body, because body and mind, it is a continuum. Same like, heat and cold. You cannot say where heat ends and where the cold starts. So here comes, very important question. And this question, it is a limitation of the modern psychiatry and the modern psychology. Or for example, you look at the challenges of the psychiatric medicine. Look at the side effects of the psychiatric medicines. Look at the dependence of these psychiatric medicines. Look at the tolerance one might develop to the psychiatric medicines and the loss of efficiency. Because the modern psychiatric medicines, they work at the plane of the body. They work at the level of the physique. There are psychiatric medicines which are inhibitors, which are antagonistics, which are tranquilizers, or which activate the brain. Because the modern psychiatry do not consider the concept of mind and do not consider the concept of the soul. The focus is on the physique. Now, even if I agree to the concept that there is a mind, now there is a question, where is this mind? Is it in the heart? Is it in the brain? Is it a structure which we can perceive with our sensory organs? When we do not know what is this mind and where is the mind, how will we treat the mind? This is the issue. Because mind is not in the brain. Mind is not in your lungs. Mind is not in your heart. Maybe you can say there is a mind in every cell. That is why Ayurveda say the mind, it cannot be separated from the body. It is a continuum. And if I quote, Charaka Samhita, an authority textbook of Ayurveda, mind is considered as the sixth sense organ. It is considered as a dual sense organ. Give me a minute, if there is any comments. How much time do I have?
Until 9 o'clock, Dr. Shyam.
10 minutes plus minus will be okay because next program is at 9:15.
Right.
Yeah, no problem.
So mind, according to Charaka Samhita, is considered as the sixth sense organs. So now there can be another question. What is the proof of existence of mind as a sense organ? Because sometimes one understands the things and sometimes, a person does not understand the thing. So this proves the existence of the mind as a separate sense organ. That is why when there is no contact of the mind with the sensory organs to their objects, no understanding of the things can occur. So it is only when the required mental contact is there, then one can understand the things. There is again, a sloka in Gita. It says, Chakshuhu pashyadi rupani manasa natu chakshusha. Eye sees objects with the help of mind. Manaso vyagule chakshuhu pashyanyapi napashyadi. That means if the mind is absent, you are seeing but not seeing. So these are the reasons, why which we can think mind is a sense organ and mind exists. So when you look at the objects of the mind, see, Ayurveda says manas, and mind may not be the exact translation. So the objects of the mind or the manas are the things which requiring thought, consideration, hypothesis, attention, or whatever it can be perceived by the mind are regarded as the objects of the mind. So the control of the sense organs, self-restraint, hypothesis, consideration, they represent the action of the mind. And beyond that, flourishes the domain and the intellect. So the objects are perceived with the help of the sense organs and the mind. And this perception is purely mental in the beginning, while the practical advantages or disadvantages are ascertained thereafter. So it is the intellect which determines the specific property of that object and then impels the individual to speak or act intelligently. So here you can see that the mind is playing a role between the sense organ. The mind is playing a role between the body and the buddhi. Mind is playing a role between the sense organs and the Atma or the soul, and buddhi or intellect is considered as a quality of the Atma. So here, you can see two perspectives of the mind. The mind which is interfacing with the body, or the mind which is interfacing with the soul. So it is called Indriya Yukta Manaha, the mind attached with the sensory pleasures, or the mind attached with the body. And the other aspect, Atma Yukta Manaha, that means, the mind which is attached with the Atma. See, we were talking about, the sleep and meditation. So sleep, it is a time when the mind detaches from the body. Sleep is a time when the mind detaches from the sensory perceptions. See, sleep is very important. Sleep repairs. And timely sleep is very important as per Ayurveda. Ayurveda says, sleep at improper time, excess sleep, and lack of sleep, all these three, it destroys the health. See, Ayurveda says, one should wake up in the Brahma Muhurta. That is in the early morning. That is between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. is considered as the Brahma Muhurta. This Brahma Muhurta, it has another synonym. It is called Saraswati Yama. One Yama means 3 hours. No, one Yama means 4 hours. So the time period between 2 a.m. and the 6 a.m., it is called Saraswati Yama. I used to think that, waking up in the Brahma Muhurta, it will improve the physical health. But actually it is wrong. Waking up in the Brahma Muhurta improves one's mental health. The word meaning is, expansion of the sattva. It takes place in the Brahma Muhurta. And the yama previous to that, the 4 hours previous to that, it is otherwise called Kali Yama. We know that, Kali, it is a goddess of, which is dark in color. And you might also, correlate, with the melatonin hormone. It is called as dark hormone. See, we need to remember that, we have a circadian rhythm which is happening in the body. And there are release of hormones, or difference in the physiology which is happening during this day cycle and the night cycle. So according to Ayurveda, the best way to stay healthy is to follow the circadian rhythm. Now, coming back to the topic, the World Health Organization gives a beautiful definition on mental health. WHO says, a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities. A state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities. It can cope up with the normal stresses. It can cope up with the adverse and the traumatic situations of the life. And a person who can work productively and fruitfully. And a person is able to make a contribution to his or her community, he is called as mentally healthy. But when you're looking at the Ayurvedic definition for mental health, as theorized by Patanjali or as theorized by Charaka, it reflects, much more deeper wisdom. So it is talking about, the concept of the sensory organs, mind, and the soul. I'm surprised of, the multiple and expanded meaning of mental health as theorized by Patanjali or Charaka. I'm not sure you might be familiar about a term named swastha. Swastha, it is used to denote health. There is a definition which is given for swastha. It says, prasanna atma indriya manaha. So the bliss of the soul, the sensory organs, and the mind is called as swastha. So we previously mentioned about, the two perspectives. That is the Atma Yukta Manaha and Indriya Yukta Manaha. So here it is talking about the Atma Yukta Manaha is called Ananda. It's not Sukha, because Sukha is always, associated with Dukkha. And there is another meaning of swastha, which means Swe Tishtadi, Swasmin Tishtadi. That means, established in the self is swastha. So established in the self, that is understanding about the ahamkara, is the prasannata of the Atma, Indriya and Mana. There is a question on shall I take the questions at the end or should I address it right now?
If you wish. If you want, I can read questions later and you can answer them later.
Because it might interfere, the flow.
Yes, go ahead with the flow and we can talk.
Right. See, if I try to analyze, the different definitions of the mental health. Previously, I mentioned, it includes the physical, mental, and the spiritual domain of the human experience. And the mind and body, it is a continuum. See, we know that our body has a mechanism to produce several chemicals which can make us happy or which can make us in ananda or which can make us in bliss. We know that some people, they sort on drugs to go high. But actually, we don't need to take drugs to go high. Our body can produce them. You should read, about the endogenous cannabinoids, which is otherwise called endocannabinoids, which are naturally occurring neurotransmitters in the body. So you don't need to depend on the cannabis. So neurotransmitters, they are some chemical messengers in the body that can send signal between the nerve cells. So these endocannabinoids, they help with various body functions, and which has another name called Anandamide. See, it's again, coming to the same name, Ananda, a Sanskrit name. And I mentioned this Ananda, it goes beyond the Sukha. And our body has the ability to produce Ananda if lived properly. Another definition for mental health is the balance of Tridoshas. According to Ayurveda, the entire physiology of the human body and the mind, it is performed by 3 doshas, which is called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, they are just names given to a set of qualities. They are the names given to a set of functions. So according to this concept, Vata governs all the movements in the body and in the mind. So you blink your eyes, your lungs breathe, heart pump, bowels move, conduction of nervous impulses from the brain, sensory pathways, movements in the mind, and how the mind, is connected with the sense organs, and how the sense organs are connected with the sensory objects, all these movements which is happening in the body and mind, it is governed by Vata. And Pitta governs all sort of transformations in the body, like food getting digested inside the mouth, or food getting digested inside the stomach, or a sound signal getting transformed into a nerve signal. Any kind of transformation is done by Pitta. And Kapha is responsible for functions like lubrication, growth, some of the immune functions, etc. So, for example, if you look at the physiology of eating food, the chewing of the food, it is governed by Vata. The digestion by the saliva inside the mouth, it is a Pitta function. The lubrication of the food, it is a Kapha function. Swallowing is Vata. Digestion by the gastric enzyme inside the stomach is Pitta. Protection of the stomach lining and the regeneration of the mucous membrane, it is Kapha. If you look at another physiology of seeing things, focusing of the lens, it's a movement which is done by Vata. A light signal falling in the retina, getting converted to a nerve signal can be considered as a Pitta function. Lubrication of the eyes, it is a Kapha function. Movement through the optic nerve, it is a Vata function. So, the entire physiology of the human body and the human mind, it is explained by the concept of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And Ayurveda say, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, they are not only the physiological or functional components of the body, they govern the functions of the mind also. So according to Ayurveda, the mind has 5 doshas, that is Vata, Pitta, Kapha, Rajas, and Tamas. Sattva cannot be called as a dosha because it is coming with a lot of positive qualities. So the body has 3 doshas, that is Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, while the mind has 5 doshas, that is Vata, Pitta, Kapha, Rajas, and Tamas. So Ayurveda deals with the physical or mental illnesses which are due to Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So Ayurveda is all about Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So when a mental illness is due to Rajas or Tamas, it may not be within the scope of Ayurveda. It may be within the scope of psychotherapy, or it may be, within the scope of spiritual healing. And the concept of Vata, Pitta, Kapha, it is little complex to understand. And because, the entire physiology and the pathology of the human body is worked around the concept of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So even a 100-year-old Vaidya will say, I'm still studying about Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And there is a saying that Kama, Shoga, and Bhaya, that is lust, grief, and fear, it increases Vata. So the lust, grief, and fear increases Vata, while Krodha or anger increases Pitta. And on the other side, disturbance of the Pitta, it affects the Rajas. Rajas is, with qualities like competition, ego, anger, pride, etc. So the disturbance of the Pitta, it can increase the Rajasic qualities of the mind. And again, if you further examine, Tamas increases the physical lethargy and Tamas increases sleep. And mental health affects the digestion. Charaka says, Ahara Shuddhau Sattva Shuddhi. And digestion affects the mental health. So the quality of the food matters, the digestion of the food matters, because the good digestion results in good ojas. So again, here you can see a connection and a crisscross communication between the body and the mind. There is a beautiful connection between the sattva, rajas, and tamas and vata, pitta, kapha. It is very similar to the PNEI axis, which is theorized by the modern psychiatry or psychology. That is the psycho, neuro, endocrine, immunology relationship. The psycho and neuro part mostly governed by vata, the endocrine part governed by pitta, and the immune system governed by kapha. See, this is the beauty of the connection and the communication between the body and the mind. See, we know that, elevated lipids in the body or elevated cholesterol in the body, it might not be, it is a cause, but at the same time, an endothelial dysfunction is required to result a block in the blood vessels. So which is otherwise called, it starts with an endothelial dysfunction of the blood vessels. And most of the studies says the endothelial dysfunction, it starts with stress. And Ayurveda uses a metaphor to explain the relation between the body and the mind. About the concept of ghee and a pot. If you pour hot ghee into a metal container or into a container, the pot gets heated. Or if you pour cold ghee into a heated pot, the ghee melts. So this is a relation. So the diseases of the mind, it reflects on the body, and the diseases of the body, it reflects on the mind. So I can say the emotional health and the mental health is based on the physical health. So how can we improve the mental health? One need to improve the physical health. And how to improve the physical health? To improve the physical health, one need to follow the daily routines, seasonal routines, etc. Like, the Brahma Muhurta. About, waking up at the Brahma Muhurta. So this is, one definition of mental health, as per Ayurveda. Another definition of mental health, it is the balance of sattva, rajas, and tamas. Hope you are familiar with these terminologies. Rajas, it is the initiator of all the activities of the mind. Rajas motivates the thoughts. Rajas motivates the actions. It is the accelerator. However, Rajas can lead to excessive thinking. It can lead to irritability and aggression. And tamas, on the other side, is the inhibitor of the mental activities. Like sleep, relax, and rest. Without tamas, it cannot happen. So tamas helps in the inhibition or withdrawal from an activity. And it is responsible for the rest and sleep, which is essential for the recuperation. However, increase of the tamas, it can lead to lethargy, it can lead to loss of motivation, and it can lead to depression. And the first one, that is the sattva. Sattvam sakhu prakashaha. It enlightened the mind with true knowledge. The sattva-guna, it balances the rajas and tamas. Because without rajas and tamas, we cannot function. Because we need motivation, we need inhibition. So the sattva keeps one in harmony and in a self-responsive mode. While rajas is more about, the reactive mode, while sattva is about the responsive mode. Sattva is all positive qualities, so which cannot be called as a dosha. So rajas and tamas, when they are imbalanced, it can cause adverse effects on the mind. However, we need all the three. So mental health, it is a balance of all these three qualities. That is sattva, rajas, and tamas. And in the internet, you can Google about, the food which influence the mind. So there are a lot of, modern classifications of food like the sattvic food, rajasic food, and tamasic food. I don't completely, go with this classification. According to some of the scriptures, according to Bhagavad Gita also, the food which is not fresh, it goes into the category of tamasic food. And according to some theories, onion and garlic falls as rajasic food. I don't completely, take it. So there is certainly the food may influence the mind. Another, interesting definition about mental health. It means, it's a well-developed prajna. That is a life with awareness. So prajna, it means it has three aspects. One is the ability for discrimination between good and bad. And the second part is the courage to choose the good or bad. No, the good from the bad. And the third aspect is the memory to remember what is good and what is bad. Because the basic cause of miseries in the life, according to Ayurveda, are number one is called Thi, Thrudi, Smriti, Vipramshaha. That is the impairment of grasping and keeping power, the impairment of the controlling power, and the impairment of the recalling power. See the Thi Vipramshaha. The Thi Vipramshaha, it's defined like this. If something is eternal, is viewed as transient, and something harmful is viewed as useful, and vice versa, this is indicative of the impairment of the Thi. If the Thi is working properly, it views things as they are. So the Thi, it is the power of discrimination. And secondly, a mind indulging in the worldly enjoyments, it cannot be restrained from the harmful objects due to the impairment of this controlling power, which is called Thridi Vipramsha. So this controlling power, or this Thridi, or the courage that can restrain the mind from the harmful objects. So the courage to practice as per the power of discrimination is called Thridi. Not just knowing, but acting on it is the Thridi. If the memory is impaired due to a person becoming overcome by the rajas and tamas, the recollection of the knowledge of reality or the self is impaired. This is known as the impairment of smriti. See, for example, a person, if he can differentiate, alcohol consumption is bad. That means, his Thi, or the power of discrimination, is working properly. Imagine that, knowing that, alcohol consumption is bad. When friends call them for a party, you go with them. So when you consume alcohol, knowing that it is bad, that means, your thridi is not working properly. And imagine that, in the party, you ended up with headache or diarrhea after consuming alcohol. And the next time also you go for a party, forgetting, what has happened. So that is called Spriti Bhramsha. So according to Ayurveda, the impairment of the Thi, Thridi and Smriti, that is the impairment of the power of discrimination, the impairment of the controlling power, and the impairment of the memory, it results in the imbalance of Vata Pitta Kapha. And the imbalance of Vata Pitta Kapha results in the affect the prajna also. So that is why the Thi, power of discrimination, the courage, and Aatmn is considered as the best medicine for mental disabilities. Aatmn is about knowing about the self. So, see, there can be multiple definitions. I think I have 10 minutes left.
Yes, doctor.
See, now, how to achieve emotional and mental health? Ayurveda is a treasure trove, to find keys to achieve emotional and mental health. To achieve mental health, Ayurveda says one should have Sampat Vipatsu Ekamanaha. That means one should have mental balance at Sampat, one should have mental balance at Vipat also. So one should have mental balance in prosperity as well as in calamity. So it indicates the ability to cope and the emotional stability. Another key which Ayurveda says is about Sadvrita. And Sadvrita, it is explained as the compassion and the empathy, about charity. Kaya Vak Chedasam Damaha, that is control over the body, control over the words, control over the mind. And it says, one of the best Sadvrita is being selfish for others. So the compassion with all the living beings, controlling the activities of the body, speech and mind, feeling selfish for the interest of the others, or looking after the interest of the others as his own or her own. They are called, the sufficient rules of good conduct or Sadvrita as per Ayurveda. And Ayurveda says Maitri or friendship is another tool, which can help in mental health and emotional health. But Ayurveda specifically says make friends with good people and keep others at a distance, because similarity increases and dissimilarity decreases. Maintaining good physical health is important for emotional and mental health. Proper sleep is important. And the urges like the greed, envy, hatredness, jealous, excessive attraction, all these urges has to be controlled. And Ayurveda is talking, treatment modalities like rational use of medicines and herbs like Yukti Vyapasraya. And there is another, treatment approach, which is the psychotherapy or the control of the mind from its objects, which is called Sattva Avajaya. And a third approach called the Deva Vyapasraya, which is called spiritual therapy with the use of mantra, mani, mangala, beli, upahara, prayaschitta, etc. And I mentioned, Ayurveda has a well-evolved, well-developed branch on psychiatry, which is called Bhuta Vidya or Graha Chikitsa. So Ayurveda says, the one who indulge in daily foods and activities, and one who discriminates the good and the bad, and then acts wisely, and one who is not attached too much to the objects of the senses, and one who develops the habit of charity, one who considers all as equal, and who is truthful, who is forgiving in nature, and who is keeping company of the good persons, becomes free from all the diseases. So to conclude, see, the mental, the emotional wellness perspective of Ayurveda cannot be explained in 1 hour or 1.5 hours. But to give some spark, Ayurveda has a multi-dimensional approach to mental health, which includes the thought engineering, the lifestyle modification, diet, medicines, therapies, etc. So that is from the self-care to the primary care and to the secondary care and to the tertiary care of mental illnesses. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shyam. There are questions. Would you like to answer? It's okay if we get slightly fine.
Yes.
Because I think the audience is fully engrossed and they would like to have maximum, if you don't mind just answering some questions. Okay. Sienna, would you just read them out to him?
I can read it. What are the times for circadian to be normal? Ideal time to go to bed and ideal time to wake up. Does it differ from person to person? Yes. See, sleep is very important. Today, as Dr. Shyam said, you should wake up at Brahma Muhurta. Don't set the alarm for tomorrow at 5 a.m. because you need to prepare for waking up in the Brahma Muhurta. Make sure that, you grab quality sleep. A Vata person might require only 6 or 7 hours of sleep. A Pitta person might require 7 to 8 hours of sleep. A Kapha person might require 8 to 9 hours of sleep. So if you want to wake up at Brahma Muhurta, at least at 5 a.m., you should make sure that you should go to bed by 10 p.m. at least. And as I mentioned, previously, it is called Kali Yama. That is from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. It is considered as Kali Yama. It is the time, when the melatonin secretions are at the peak. So you should try to sleep during the Kali Yama and try to wake up in the Saraswati Yama, which is in the Brahma Muhurta time. There is another question. Where is... okay, it is not Uddha Vidya, it is called Bhuta Vidya, or it is called Graha Chikitsa. So it is a branch of Ayurveda. About translation of Ashtanga Hridaya. See several times, the English translations, it might confuse you because the Sanskrit, it's a very rich language. Most of the Ashtanga Hridaya, it is written in Sutra Rupa. Sutra Rupa means, one word in the Ashtanga Hridaya, it can be elaborated to several pages. But still, you can find, quality translations of Ashtanga Hridaya online also. How much weightage, should we give to naturopathy in daily life? No milk, no sugar. According to Ayurveda, milk is good, sugar is good. So it is a wrong understanding. According to Ayurveda, everything is good and everything is bad. If you Google, you may find, 100 papers which says milk is good and 100 papers says milk is bad. Milk is good for you. It doesn't mean that milk is good for everyone. Sugar is good for you. It doesn't mean that sugar is good for you, for everyone. milk is good for you today, it doesn't mean that milk is good for you tomorrow. But generally, milk and sugar is considered as healthy food. But taking, the home remedies in the name of Ayurveda is naturopathy, and it is not Ayurveda. Say, for example, intake of neem every day, intake of turmeric every day, in the early morning, intake of lemon every day in the morning, they are considered as unhealthy practices according to Ayurveda. About identifying the dosha type. See, the dosha type of a person, it cannot be analyzed, even by a physician in one sitting. Because the body type of a person has to be understood from the family members. The body type of the person, it has to be understood from the people you interact with. So here comes, the importance of family physician, and here comes the importance of bringing Ayurveda to primary healthcare level. Did I answer to all of them?
Yeah, I think you have. Oh, there's another.
No, body type cannot change over the time. The body type of a person, it is determined at the time of fertilization and the time of birth. And you get the body type from your parents, and the activities of mother during the pregnancy contribute to the formation of one's body type. And the body type will not change until death. So the body type, it is an imbalance of Vata, Pitta, or Kapha, which has occurred at the time of birth. A deviation from the body type, it is called Vikriti, it is called Vigara. So a change of the body type, if it is happening, that is called disease. Asking the email ID. Maybe you can follow me on Instagram or in social media. Dr. Shyam Ayurveda, DRSHYAM Ayurveda. How to know what dosha, Vata, Pitta, Kapha one has related to sleep? I didn't understand that question.
If anybody wants to ask question, just raise your hand. We can give you permission to unmute. Yep, just a second.
Ghee balance Vata and Pitta, and ghee imbalance Kapha. That is why I said everything is good, everything is bad. But ghee improves the ojas, ghee improves the general health. For summer season, ghee may be consumed well, but in the winter time or in the Vasanta Radu, that is in the springtime, you may reduce the intake of ghee. The other seasons, you may consume ghee. So reduce the consumption of ghee in the winter time and in the springtime. See, life is Saumya and Agneya at the same time. Life is cold and warm at the same time. There is only two things which resemble like the life, which has the qualities of Saumya and Agneya Guna at the same time. There are only two things which has cold and warm at the same time. One is ghee and the second is gold. That is why we give, gold with ghee for the newly born children, to improve the ojas, to improve the life force. See, there is nothing like, taking ghee on empty stomach. How affects pranayama our mind and body? See the word itself, it says, prana and ayama. Practicing pranayama, it improves the health span, it improves the lifespan. See, you know that a dog, which is mostly, a Vata type, breathes very fast and die very fast also. An elephant or a tortoise breathe very slow and they live for 100+ years. Yes, the importance of taking oil bath, it cannot be explained in the words. It is truly experiential. But one should not do abhyanga, one should not do oil bath if affected with indigestion, and if it is having febrile conditions, and if it is associated with kapha diseases. So again, everything is good and everything is bad. Ghee increases kapha, but yes, having a hypothyroidism problem, ghee is not good. But in a condition of hyperthyroidism, ghee can be used as a good medicine. But generally, ghee is permitted to be consumed on a daily basis.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shyam. Sienna, I put you, I'll just, can you switch on the video, Sienna?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let me add you to the spotlight.
I'm sure everyone benefited from this very interesting and detailed explanation on Ayurveda and health. This was a very easy and practical session for us all, Dr. Shyam. Thank you so much for these insights, and especially for the youth and our generation today about sleep and good food and not being stressed out. I think these were things we'll all take away today. The comments on the chat proved that this was such an insightful session. Thank you once again, Dr. Shyam. And thank you all for your participation. All of us here were benefited. Thank you.
Thank you and namaste.
Look forward to